Hello, everyone, and welcome to Dreamleapers Inspiration. I'm your host, Harriet Cole. So honored and happy to be with you at this exact moment. For all who join us live, I thank you. For all who join later, because we live in an on demand culture, I thank you for taking this moment to fellowship, to pause, to reflect, to contemplate the value of this precious life that we have. I think it's so important for us to step back and literally survey the landscape and see, where are we? What's going on in our lives? What matters? Do we actually see what and who are before us? Or are we so busy moving fast, chugging along, that we don't see something that's staring us in the face? When I am honest with myself, I can tell you there are plenty of times that I don't see the obvious. Something that's right there, right in front of me. I have to stumble in order to notice it. I make an effort not to live like that, though. I make an effort to take a breath, to pause enough to be able to see what is before me and to notice the good in whatever that is, to savor the sweetness, the greatness of the moment. And I wanted us to contemplate that today, what it means to savor the moment that you are in. Not what happened yesterday, not what perhaps is about to happen, but this moment, savoring this exact moment. And as always, I have a few examples to share with you. Just last week, I was at the convention for my sorority, Delta Sigma Theta. I was moderating a panel that I was honored to be able to do. And I let my friends, for those in this world, my sorors, my line sisters, women who I met 40 something years ago and have been connected to ever since, let those who were attending know that I was coming. And I ended up being able to have wonderful experiences just hanging with them in between the time that I was preparing for the workshop that I moderated and leaving. And it was beautiful. Just to be with these women without an agenda other than to be connected, to be able to talk freely about whatever was on our hearts, to be able to support one another, and literally just be in the same room and be still, if that's what it called for, to laugh, to shed tears. Whatever the moment required, we were able to be present for it. And it was a reminder that slowing down enough to simply be makes all the difference in the world. And I'm going to tell you, I'm one of the people who's constantly on the move, going from here to there, this project to that project, physically in motion a lot. And even there, I was busy, but there was pause time. And that pause time in the company of people that I love was so important, and I treasure it so much. And in the moment, there was this feeling of savoring the moment. And then after the moment, honoring it and saying to each other, wow, we're so glad this happened. We're so glad that we were able to carve out time to be together in between the spaces of other things. Well, I guess in the spaces that were between other things that were happening, that were responsibilities. Why do I bring that up? Because if you're paying close attention, you will notice each moment. Sometimes the moment is busy. Sometimes the moment gives you a chance to pause. Sometimes the moment, like I said at the beginning, is just opening your eyes and seeing what or who is right in front of you. instead of pushing past whatever that might be. When that occurred for all of us together, it was so sweet and something that I will always remember. And we had an exchange of texts with my line sister, I considered to be the glue, Marcita, just acknowledging that being able to be with each other during that pause was special. So see, the acknowledgement is important too. Being able to close the loop on something wonderful and saying, yes, this was great. Thank you. Thank you for this moment. How often do you do that? If you have an experience, you've savored it, you're like, yes, this is great. How often do you close the loop to let whoever participated in that moment share with you that feeling of, yeah, this was great. Thank you. Because if you don't, you enjoyed it, but you didn't create space for that circle of inclusion and love to happen, for that circle to be complete. If you just hold on to it, but you don't include those who were part of the experience in gratitude, then something is missing. And I'll tell you, I've had that experience as well. I have a friend who's a dear friend, but kind of selfish. And this person loves to be in the favored moment, in the magical moment, enjoys the magical moment and moves on, and rarely takes a pause to step back and say, that was great. Thank you. Thank you for spending that moment together. Instead, they just move on. Like, oh, I got that. I had that. That was good for me. I call that selfish because that's what I think it is. If you kind of collect experiences and just hold them for yourself, but don't complete the circle, then in my mind, in my experience, it almost feels like hoarding the experiences rather than sharing the experiences. Well, I've got this collection of great things that happened for me. And yes, I experienced them with this one and that one and that one, but is that enough? I don't know, for me, I think it's better when you close the loop. And it's a simple closure. Thank you. That was great. You don't have to say, let's do it again if that's not what you intend. You can just honor that it's great in the moment. That's part of savoring the moment, completing the moment by saying thank you. If it's not something that you do regularly, I want to encourage you to pause one more breath to do that. It could be a text, it could be an email, it can be some kind of outreach that makes it clear that you value what just happened. I love examples. I'm going to move on to some more examples. I'm in my happy place. I tell you, whenever I'm in my happy place, I think my gaze is softer. I notice good things even more because I can relax. Even as I'm working, I just feel really good here. And this past weekend was super busy, going from one experience to the next. It's summer here for all who are live in this experience. And in the summer, people often stay up later than normal and hang out and talk. And there are lots of different people coming and going. So there are people to meet and to just create special moments. And so there were many special moments this weekend, going from one opportunity, one experience to the next. Staying up much later than we wanted, but staying up and having great positive conversations. Like everything was positive. There wasn't complaining. And I want to emphasize that there was not complaining. It was, this is great. Oh, what are our connections? I met a woman from San Francisco. And this is an important story to share because it shows the highs and lows and the reality of a moment. So she was here because there was a special acknowledgement of her husband who passed away a few years ago from, I believe, a heart attack. Young man, very successful. And when I say young, it's relative. I believe he was in his 50s, so younger than we think people will leave us. And there was an event acknowledging him in honor of him and helping others with the American Heart Association. And so she was here. It was a bittersweet thing for her. It was acknowledging her husband, but also that means remembering that he's gone. And it was a circle of love. She was with friends. We all came to see the friends and hang out for a few hours, just enjoying each other. And we learned that we have connections to people who are very, very close to us or close to her, all the way across the country. So, these connections that kind of bring folks together is really, really beautiful. It was savoring the moment even when something challenging had occurred, the loss of her husband. And so we stayed up, I don't know, until 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning. Happy. When we woke up the next morning, we were a little tired, but we were still happy. And early in the morning walks a friend. And we were staying in this friend's home. And I saw this look on his face, and it was not happy. I said, "What's wrong?" And he told us that one of the fellow members of the community, a man younger than I, had passed away in his sleep. He had been at this gathering maybe an hour or so before my family and I got there. He had been fine. We had seen him in the morning driving his car, and he passed away in his sleep. And so the whole community was kind of shocked yesterday. Like, whoa, we just had so much triumph and joy and sweetness and easefulness, being kissed by the sun, eating good food, being in the company of wonderful loved ones. And now he's gone. And I'll honor him by saying his name, Mark Anderson. Many may know him. He was partners with our friend Lucinda Martinez. And our hearts ache for her, for the community. He was beloved, and he had savored the moment that day, that very day. He was living his best life and having joy the best he could, and gone in his sleep. Well, we know tomorrow isn't guaranteed. We all know it. But when it comes knocking, like right next door, with your friends, with your peers, in my case, someone younger than I, but in the same general age group, it rocks you. And for me, what it got me to thinking about is what is important? The present moment. And so I want to go to the quote that I selected for today. It's from Eckhart Tolle. My friend Renee Cox loves Eckhart Tolle, and she's been quoting him to me a lot. One thing he said is, "It is through gratitude for the present moment that the spiritual dimension of life opens up." Let me say that one more time. It is through gratitude for the present moment that the spiritual dimension of life opens up. And what does that mean? Literally, we were exuberantly joyful that evening, Saturday evening. waves of joy. I had gone to a couple of different events that were just spectacular events, one after the next. And it ended way late. My husband, my daughter, and I were hanging with friends, enjoying the moment, being with people who at different points had touched our day, including this couple. And imagine in the morning, Mark is gone. And someone writes, Mark was the friend of a college friend. We're so connected, so connected. You know, I will say his name again, Mark Anderson. He's with the Angels now. It's still a shock. And he had a great day the day before he left us. We had a great day by being able to spend time with him. And all who knew him, you know, my friend Pam Pickens was telling me she's been his friend for 35 years. So yesterday, as we were reminiscing and thinking about what a great life he had and what a loss it is, savoring the moment then was calling forth the memories. There was the gratitude for the moment then of being able to remember this beloved person. And somehow, as Eckhart Tolle says, if you have gratitude for the now, for right this moment, the spiritual dimension of life opens up, because it is on a spiritual plane, however you have faith, however you believe. When someone leaves the planet, we feel it. We feel it. If you are, sometimes you even have to know the person, but when you do know the person, wow, then you just like, how do I move forward? It's interesting. I've seen some people who learn of folks who have passed on, who may not have known them at all, but they feel something. Why? Because loss is real. Life is real, loss is real. And that transitory moment when people leave the planet and it's fresh, the heart feeling is real. And the heart feeling for those who are survivors is real. And so if you're grateful right now for this moment, in this case, to remember this great man, it makes it a little sweeter. The spiritual dimension opens up. That's what Eckhart Tolle said. The spiritual dimension opens up, and then beyond your capability, there's support. Beyond what you know as an individual, there's, in my experience, a force that buoys you. You know, yesterday as I was spending time with Pam and Damon, who were very close to Mark, and, you know, different folks are just being with each other, we shared the warmest hugs, like, you know, love hugs, friend hugs. And it made me realize how important it is to be able to share that, to be able to hug another human being and share your love, just completely embrace and share your love at a time of loss. Powerful. There's something beyond us, but also within us, that gives us the fortitude, capability of moving forward in challenging moments. And again, part of that is savoring the moment. I go back to magical weekend, experience after experience of joy, connection, potential, in so many different ways. Because we were out and about, I was out and about, I met all kinds of people who were special, and special in ways that connected, for example, to my daughter at her college, to one of my dearest friends in a museum that she's just joined the board. I mean, it was one after another experiences that, like tentacles that went out into the world, making the circle bigger and yet intimate at the same time. How often do you pay attention to that? I want you to think about it. How often do you notice the positive things that are happening in the moment? Because it is also true that every one of us can complain. And telling the truth, plenty of times that I complain. I made a conscious effort at the start of this summer that when I hear the complaints, shut them down. Don't allow the complaints to live on till the next day. Do whatever I have to do to dissolve complaints so that I can find joy in the present moment. That's what Eckhart Tolle is talking about. That's, when you're savoring that present moment, then the spiritual dimension of life opens up. If you are complaining, if you're in your head and just not being able to see good in the moment, then darkness is going to come over you. I know it. It's happened to me. So we have the choice to not let that happen. We have the choice to savor the moment instead. What is good in the moment? I've told you this so many times. My mother will say, I may not be able to do everything I did when I was younger, but I'm enjoying today and what I can do. I'm enjoying, she's living in a place where they cook for her. Sometimes she likes the food, sometimes she doesn't. What will she say? Oh, it was okay. And then when it's good, oh, it was good. And when my sister cooks for her, oh, yes, it was fantastic. But she's not complaining if it's not the best. She's accepting and savoring what is before her. How often do you do that? Ask yourself, how often do you savor what is before you rather than complaining? How often do you stop yourself when you're in the midst, in the stride of a complaint and say, wait a minute, I'm not going to do that anymore. Literally, I was able to start my business and get one of my very first clients because I listened to my mother's advice. This is 30 years ago, and didn't complain. I was not happy about something that was happening at my job. Great job, but I was not happy about it. I was writing a book, and I went to a cocktail party, and my mother would say, don't go out and complain. If you can't have something good to say, stay home. I went to this event, and a gentleman sat down next to me, and he says, Harriet, what are you doing? And he knew what I was doing. I had a big job. He knew what I was doing, but I didn't want to talk about my job because I wasn't liking it at that moment. And he says, well, what are you doing? And I was working on this book, How to Be. Many of you may know of this book. I wrote it back in 1999. Well, it came out in 1999. This was 95 when I was talking to him. Anyway, he says, well, could you teach that to my artists? I said, teach them what? He says, teach them how to be like old Motown. And I said, sure. That was Andre Harrell, the head of Uptown Records, where Puffy got his start, where Mary J. Blige was, where Jodeci and Heavy D and so many other artists. And we're celebrating the 50th anniversary of hip hop. So it's fine time to acknowledge him. I said yes. And he hired me to work with many of his artists, to help them to step into their greatness, to present themselves well, to tell their stories well, to look as well as they could, not on stage, but just in their regular interaction and their interaction with the media. Why? Because I claimed it. I said it out loud. Why? Because in the present moment, he believed what I was sharing with him. Why? Because we together claim the power of that moment. That's when the spiritual realm comes in. Like God said yes. And this is however many years later, and I'm still working with so many great artists and other people, helping them to learn how to tell their story. One of my first clients was Mary J. Blige because Andre trusted me. If I had been complaining, he would have probably gotten up and not talked to me anymore in that moment, because who wants to talk to a complainer? And who knows what would have happened? But because I savored the moment, I listened to my mother's advice, I talked about what my dream was, what I was working on. It didn't exist yet. It was the beginning stages of writing this book. But I talked to him about that. And look at what happened. A huge part of my career opened up. Me being in my own business opened up because I claimed it. And both of us savored that moment. It is powerful. I'm telling you, if you are willing to open your eyes and look around and see what's before me, what are the possibilities, then step in and savor it. Connect with people who resonate with you in that moment. The magic happens. And I call it magic, but I feel like God enters the space in a bigger way. If your eyes are open and you're willing to see, you will see. You will notice. And even if it's in a tender moment, like the passing of our friend, even then, you can see the goodness and the greatness in the moment. I promise you it works. In this weekend that had so many ups and downs and twists and turns, Pam showed me pictures of sunset because I wasn't there at sunset. I mean, a big ball of red and gold sun shimmering on the water. It was like a pillar of light. And it was exquisite, absolutely exquisite. That sunset happened on the heels of Mark's passing. And many of his friends got to see it. And while I wasn't there, I got to see it because Pam showed it to me. The magnificence of life, the potential for greatness, it's right there in front of you, but you have to savor the moment. So let's look at Eckhart Tolle's quote one more time before we go. He says, "It is through gratitude for the present moment that the spiritual dimension of life opens up." Let that sit in your being. It is through gratitude for the present moment that the spiritual dimension of life opens up. Don't be the person who says, I'm going to be happy when this occurs. Don't be the person who says, it's whenever I get there, whenever I get past this, after this, if only this, then I'm going to be happy. No, now, it's now. It is through gratitude for the present moment that the spiritual dimension of life opens up. And it may mean that we have to fight down the negativity. That's why spiritual practice works. That you claim light, that you claim love, that you claim possibility. You claim it vehemently, vigorously, with all of your heart, so that you choose the present moment to be happy, to be grateful, to welcome God's love into your heart and into the atmosphere. It's there. All you have to do is say, welcome. Thank you so much for joining me today. Hope you have a great week. And until next time, have a great day and make it count. Namaste.